recently I was asked if I could do a follow-up video to the unboxing that I did of the 24-200 Nikon Z-mount lens that came out this year. And it really got me to start thinking a little bit more about how I actually feel about this lens now that I've had it for just over a month. And I love it. But of course there are those things that I'm not totally sold on. So let's check those out. Howdy y'all, welcome back to another video. If you're a first-time viewer and you really end up liking this video, then please consider heading over to my channel afterwards and checking out my other videos. And if it seems like something that you're into, then please subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you get notified every time I put out new videos. So there's already a lot of great videos on YouTube about this lens in a more analytical way. They cover how sharp it is and all the details about the lens itself, and that's not really my thing. So I'm going to take more of a real world approach, and I've gone and I've tested scenarios that I would shoot in and to see if it would work out the way I was hoping, the things that I expected out of it. All I'll say about the lens itself, I do wish it still had the manual to autofocus switch. I do miss that. I wish that I didn't have to go into the camera each time I wanted to do that. Other than that, I really have no complaints about the body itself. It's really the same size as the 24-70. It's really ridiculous. I think it's a little bit heavier. Really don't know the actual weights of them. That's just going off of the experience I've had, which makes sense because it is, you know, once you put it all the way out, you know, it's definitely bigger and, you know, exactly what you would expect. Anyways, enough of all that. I'm gonna jump into Lightroom and we're just going to kind of look at some of these pictures and see if it really would probably be a good pickup for someone that's just looking for this focal range. If you're just wanting to be able to focus on the focal range and see if you can start learning, because that's what I'm trying to do, then we'll see if this lens can hold up to the expectations that we might have. All right, so here in Lightroom, I have a few different examples that I'm gonna show. There was a few reasons I wanted to get this lens. Part of it was to start practicing a little bit more in the portraiture range, focal range that people like to use. But it was also to get more into wildlife photography and then also kind of the macro photography that you can kind of get with a telephoto lens. I know it's not a true one-to-one, but at least start kind of practicing, at least in my mind. Anyways, so that's kind of what I did. I wanted to see how does it look for portraits, how is the autofocus when it comes to wildlife and kind of sports photography, and also how does it look, you know, how good is the detail, you know, because you don't have that, you know, nice wide open 2.8 aperture that you would get with the professional lens. But anyways, so here's a shot of my mom. I tried to get it to 85 millimeters. I thought I did, but as you can see here, this one's at 86 millimeters. So I hope you'll forgive me for that one. ISO 100, 1/500th of a second, f6.3. It is something to note that this lens, once you hit 70, I believe it's even like probably like 65 millimeters as you're zooming in, you're already at f6.3. So one mistake I made was thinking that, you know, I was gonna have the full focal range for the aperture to close down on me. It happens in the first like 24 to 70 millimeters, and then anything past 70 millimeters, you're gonna be stuck with the 6.3 aperture, which kind of makes sense because obviously they want you to pay for the lens that's gonna give you that. Okay, yeah, you follow what I'm saying. Okay, so here's the shot of my mom. As you can see in the background, I mean, you have a nice depth of field. You know, she definitely stands out from the background. It's not obliterated like you would have on a 2.8 lens, but you know, I kind of wanted to do a little bit more of a full body shot here. But you know, you zoom in on the face and just excellent detail. I'm happy with it. I think that that's more than acceptable. And then here I think is in, yeah, so I actually got the 85 correct here. So 500th of a second, ISO 100 once again. And this is my beautiful wife, Allison. And once again, you know, you can see the waves in the background. It's, you know, it looks good. It's definitely a nice depth of field and everything. And once again, it's acceptable for my standards. And if we come in on their hairline, I mean, you can just, all those details, you can just see that it's very, very clear. It's definitely sharp. There's no questions about that. And I should have said this earlier, but I shot all of these handheld, all the photos you're gonna see. I shot them handheld in a flat profile, so these have no edits on them and they're very low contrast. And I also dropped the sharpness all the way down. There's no post-processing or lens sharpening on this whatsoever, because I wanted to see how sharp it was just straight out of the camera. And I'm really, really impressed. So then I hopped up to 105 millimeters, as you can see up here, still 100 ISO, f6.3. And once again, we even a little bit less sharpness in the background, a little bit better depth of field going on here. And once again, it's just razor sharp, at least based on my standards. Like I said, I don't have a lot of experiences with different lenses, but this is definitely good enough for me. So then we'll hop over here, and this is now more of a portrait traditional shot, still at 105, as you can see up here by the histogram. And it's just, I'm happy. I'm really, really happy with it. And I think this is definitely gonna allow me to really start to play with these portraiture range focal lengths. And if this is something in the future, if I end up wanting to get an 85 mm 1.8 prime, then I at least know kind of how to compare it in my mind, see the difference and everything, because I'm sure it'd be absolutely stunning, the results that could put out, but it's good enough for me, so. Okay, moving on to this next one. Okay, so the following ones were of action situations. So I wanted to see at 200 millimeters, right? I wanted to see the vibration reduction. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting at that problem, as well as I wanted to see how good the autofocus is, because I know it's been a complaint of mirrorless cameras. So I'm still not very practiced at it, so I can't really give you a percentage number of how many shots hit. Like, I don't know exactly how many were the camera's fault versus my fault. But I was using dynamic area AF and doing my best. So here's a shot at 200 millimeters, ISO 160, because I left it on auto ISO because I wanted to make sure my shutter stayed at 1/1000th of a second. Can't say that. Anyways, I was focusing on this particular pelican, doing a cool dance move here. And this is, I'm happy with it. I'm really impressed with myself. Once again, no editing, flat profile, no sharpness, and even everything else in the image is well in focus, looks good. Here's another shot. I mean, this bird's even closer, but it's 200 millimeters, same settings. ISO is 140, right? Look at this. Like, the glint off of his eye and the feathers. I mean, you can count all of his feathers. I'm really happy with it. For me, I think starting out trying to use this lens for wildlife photography to find out if someday it'd be worth investing into the professional 70-200 or even a 300 or 400, spending thousands of dollars on a wildlife lens like that. It's a big investment. So I think that having a lens like this, and it allows you to kind of experiment and find out if it's even the type of photography that you'd be interested in, right? If you just have the bare minimums, beginner stuff, is it good enough? Are you interested in it enough to actually invest even further into the more expensive professional lenses? So this is one, probably my proudest surfer shot that I got. I do not know if this is a male or female, not that it really matters, but I thought that they looked really cool with their arms out like this. And I don't know roughly, to be generous, I'll say I was about 100 yards away. They might have been a little bit further, but I don't want to exaggerate. So once again, 200 millimeters, 1/1600th of a second, and an ISO of 250. I mean, just, are you kidding me? The droplets of the water coming off of the wave and once again, flat profile, so there's no contrast. I'm sure you could bring out more detail with all, I mean, it's just, wow. I'm happy with it. And then over here you have my little macro-ish style shot. This is a Portuguese man-of-war, and right now I am in South Padre Island, and these things are washing up all over the beach. So definitely keeping my shoes on walking around because I don't feel like getting stung. Anyways, not the point. So, you know, look at this thing. Beautiful jellyfish, and you know, really colorful and everything, but you can count the sand. Maybe not, you know, keeping track, but you can see the little pebbles. You can see the bubbles here on the jellyfish, and you can see all the little creases, and it's just, that is just so good. Oh, I just love it. I really, really love it. It does look kind of gross, I guess, but I like this blue and the little pink on the edges here, and it's just, and you look at this. If you look in the background, it is just, there's nothing. It is blown out, and this is at 6.3 aperture. Right? That is enough compression and everything. Yeah, it's really, really good. Really happy with it. Okay, I'll stop saying that. Now, the last thing that I wanted to look at was how good is the vibration reduction, right? So here's a shot of this building, and if you come up to the histogram, you know, I had to kind of push the settings to get the results that I was looking for. So a little high on the ISO here, but you know, it's for example purposes, so bear with me. F16, I'm okay with F16. I've never had a problem with it, but to each their own. But here we got a 60th of a second, and I have 4 images, and as we go down, obviously I'm slowing the shutter down because at 200 millimeters, I wanted to see, you know, obviously this is handheld, so I wanted to see how steady, right? How, you know, sharp, how good is this vibration reduction? So by doing this, I'm zooming in on these lights here, right? So no streaking in the lights. Nothing, even up here on this, you know, higher up on the floors of the building, there's a red light right up here at the top. But I think it's better to kind of look at the ones down here at the bottom. They look good, you know? I don't know if they're perfectly sharp, but you know, not, you'd really have to do some pixel peeping here to figure that out. So let's come over here. Now we're at, if you look by the histogram, we're at 1/40th of a second. Let's go back to the lights. Still no noticeable streaking, right? Even if you come up to the lights up here, look at this building over here, right? Those all look little pinpoints. Once again, you'd really have to do some pixel peeping to try to find, you know, so that looks good, all right? So let's see, now we're at 1/25th of a second. That, I mean, that's pretty low handheld period, right? But we're at 200 millimeters, right? Look. I personally, maybe my eyes aren't good enough, and I know this is just a screen recording, but that's, you know, at 100% magnification, because I feel like, you know, that's kind of a fair, you know, range to be at, and they still look good. Even this building, they're each pinpoints. There's no streaking whatsoever. So then I went extreme and I said 1/10 of a second, right? Because I know I can't really handhold below that. My goodness. 1/10 of a second, 200 millimeters. Like, okay, right here, this light right up here, maybe a little bit of streaking, maybe a little bit of movement. Yep, these are starting to look a little bit streaked on top of this, but this is 1/10 of a second with wind blowing, handheld at 200 millimeters. I'm happy, I'm impressed, I'm okay with it. I think that is 100% acceptable, and hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of whether or not the vibration reduction really works, because there's no way I'd be getting a shot that clear and that, you know, yeah, anyways, really, really happy with it. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm happy with this lens. I am okay with not having the little switch on the side. I do wish it was there, but it's not the end of the world. I think the vibration reduction is great. I think it's really sharp, straight out of the camera. I think the colors look good, but I just definitively want to say that I think if you're looking for that focal range, you don't need to buy the professional one. Unless you really need it, unless you really need that aperture, you will be safe with this lens for learning, and I'll dare say for some professional shoots. So I'll leave it at that. If you like this video, then please consider liking it. If you got anything out of it, then please head over to my channel and see if you like my other content. And if you do, I'd really appreciate the support by subscribing and turning on that notification bell. So until the next one, see ya.